My name is Neon, I'm an aspiring artist. I'll do a tier list of many different Japanese manga. Let me get this clear again. Manga, not anime. In the last video, I talked about 3 manga that made me start reading manga for real. Those 3 manga are Demon Slayer, One Punch Man, and Monster, ranking C, B, and S tier, respectively. And last time I gave a little preview about what this video will be about, which is loneliness. However, last time I said I would discuss about 3 mangas, but changed my mind only 2 today. Because there was one manga that I moved to another category. So before we start, which manga do you think conveys loneliness the best? Loneliness is something we can easily relate to, whether it is a friendless school or working environment, social anxiety, not being understood by anyone, or thinking that you're lonely because you neglected others' kindness. When I was in middle school, I didn't like to talk either. And then I finally made some changes in high school. I joined sports. I actively talked to friends, invited friends to my home, and was just like loiter around. That's why loneliness is such an appealing subject, because it provides huge potential for character growth, like inviting someone to lunch. Can a manga that is so fucking real that makes people squirm on their bed for how embarrassing it is actually be good? Can Yuri Harem manga be above all those big names? Demon Slayer, One Punch Man, Monster? I certainly think so. I only have 2 words: character development. Nico Tanigawa. Watashi ga... The name's so fucking long. No matter how I look at it, it's you guys' fault that I'm not popular. A tier. Yes, A tier. This manga that barely anyone knows, a simple school slice of life manga, is A tier. That's crazy, you think? Do yourself a favor. Go read this manga, you'll have the best time and the worst time of your life. The drawing isn't unique nor appealing, but it is slice of life, so unlike action manga, that drawing doesn't matter that much. The drawing also improved at a drastic pace. I'll call this manga in its abbreviation, Watamote. When we talk about lonely characters, you probably think of them as those who don't talk, who has no friends, who has pretty or handsome faces, who has tons of money, who has a bunch of skills that people will like, and that's fake loneliness. We all know how cruel reality is. Real loneliness is having social anxiety, superiority complex, delusion, self-loathing, and that is our protagonist, a high school girl, Tomoko. Tomoko also has the lewdest mind that outdoes any the SK or whatever protagonist that are downright disgusting perverts, and it's not even funny. I read this manga crawling like a shrimp on the bed, wiggling and clenching my toes and silently screaming. It does not hold back. Have you ever dropped your food in the cafeteria? Have you ever said something to someone and they don't give a shit?
何この汗。バスケ漫画のキャラみたいな汗かいてる。
もしかして俺に言ってる？
いや。
I'm gonna fucking die. And there's only 2 of the 100 fumbles that Tomoko did. Slice of life is a genre that's easy and hard to write because this is a genre we can easily relate to. But the emotional aspect is mostly only connected through comedy. I haven't read many slice of life, so I don't know if it follows arc by arc seriously, but Watamote certainly has very distinctive arcs. The comedy in the first arc, which I think is everything that happened before Field Trip arc, is accompanied by embarrassment as well as loneliness, with the protagonist adding color to our emotions. She has no friends in school. As a result, her ability to communicate has decreased to none. Because many of us have experienced what she experienced, we know clearly that her actions are based on anxiety, delusions, and self-loathing. We can make up our mind to be brave and wear cool drips or beautiful makeup, just to know that no one in school cared. The comedy dies down into loneliness after realization, but Tomoko was surrounded by people who have no comments on her, who can share friendliness when she needs help, but she overlooks them because of her mental state. And sometimes to change that, all you need is a hug from a stranger. The story took a shift in chapter 69, where teacher Okino made Tomoko the school field trip's group leader to schedule the trip. A little push from an experienced person can change your life. She was forced to stay with her friend group, consist of Masaki, Yuri, and Emery. Emery didn't care about her group. and left for her friends. Masaki had bad temper, and Yuri had trouble communicating. Friendless people can become friends, and don't ever think that is pitiful. That is a place to start. Tomoko was forced to stay with them. She was forced to speak as their group leader, hence they began caring for each other. Remember that Tomoko is lewd as fuck and has superiority complex. People find them unique because no one else in school is like Tomoko. Well, don't worry. Tomoko's friend-making journey didn't end with Masaki and Yuri, because the next victim falling under Tomoko's lewdness and superiority complexes.
Oh, no.
Like many, Tomoko despises virgin, even though she is one. After accidentally learning that Emery is a virgin, she forgot that she had trouble communicating and said to Emery, "Oh, you're a virgin? It's alright to be a virgin. I only lost mine a while ago." It's freaking annoying. After a bunch of lewd incidents, Emery developed the Stockholm Syndrome and fell in love with Tomoko. The story or Tomoko's character didn't shift after the field trip. She still had trouble, but because she had Masaki and Yuri, she grew more and more outward with a realistic pace. And the best thing about this fucking manga, like something that almost no fiction does that. I cannot understate this because that is why this is placed on A tier. It is the connections between all characters. Let me give you a false example. I recently watched the Maze Runner, the movie series, and realized how shit it is. I haven't read the original book, maybe it's better, but the movies are shit. Because every character is connected to Thomas, the protagonist, alone. We were given the context that the horde had been stuck in the maze together, and that's all. We didn't see their interactions, we didn't see their reason to care for each other, except for the empty context. Everyone is centered around Thomas alone. They react and feel because of Thomas. I can't see why the characters were even sad that other characters died, because Thomas seems to be the only center. I believe no characters should know that they are not the protagonists, because aren't we all protagonists to our own lives? Friends of friends of friends. Tomoko befriended Mako because Mako was Yuri's friend. Don't be deceived when I say befriend. Masaki didn't hang out too much around Tomoko because she had her own friend group in another class. How many people thought Masaki is gonna be one of the main characters after the field trip arc? No, she was the acquaintance that happened to troll upon Tomoko's life and helped her in her first stage. Of course, there are acquaintances, they are good friends. Again, things didn't throw around Tomoko. My favorite frame is this. Miyazaki, a friend of Emery. Fuka,
No.
a friend of Azuka. Reina, a friend of Masaki. And Tomoko. Being with a friend's friend can be awkward. They all take the same metro to school and are forced to acquaint each other. Reina and Fuka are outgoing, leading these friends' friends to become friends. Just take this as an example to the other characters. Each minor characters has a distinct relationship to each other, not just around Tomoko, not just around their own friends. They learn about each other during many arcs, like summer training camps. The author isn't leaning with Tomoko, making sure that she builds new dynamic with friends, forcing her to become Fuka and Miho's roommate in the summer training camp. How many manga does that? Characters can be great based on setting, development or connection, and dare I say, this manga's character, their connection outdoes any other fiction that I've read. What is ambiance? I think ambiance is an underrated subject when it comes to manga. I think it is a real discussion of whether a fiction is good or not. Plot can be good without ambiance, but it's always a bonus with ambiance. So, what is this ambiance that I'm talking about? Ambiance must fit the subject. Sometimes, slice of life can feel unrealistic and too dreamy for youth. How did Watamote approach it? Studying for exams? Tomoko stayed up whole night to study. The coffee she once couldn't bear was melting away. And this is what I meant by the drawing has improved drastically. Or slice of life can be finding a day to drink cola with the siblings. By this, I don't mean a panel or something. I meant an entire chapter dedicated to drinking cola. This is ambiance, because ambiance requires time to build. Visiting arcades, trying hair dye for the first time. Slice of life is not filled with love, drama, or winning in sports. Tomoko didn't even make it to the finals in the last ever high school sports festival. The ambiance is youth, and youth is normally the theme of slice of life, and this manga provides the realism. I can laugh at slice of life. In fact, I watch many slice of life anime but not manga, so I won't talk about them. I watch them only for laughs and I can forget about them the next day. But Watamote is a manga that I always go back once a year. Tomoko and some other character developments are perfect. Some had regression, not development. The character connections are executed flawlessly. And dare I say, it's worth the A tier based on character connection alone, because barely any other works does that. Last, the ambience. I still remember the entire night where Tomoko and Yuri spent to watch movie, eating snacks, and sharing thoughts in the stormy night. That sort of tranquil ambiance made this my favorite slice of life the whole time. And I will always come back to this manga to remind myself that there are friends who care about me. I can't neglect their kindness when I'm just having a bad day. Also, Tomoko's little brother got kissed by the foreshadowed potential gay boy. What the fuck? I don't normally get shocked by this sort of things, but this one hit so hard. Is anyone interested in climbing, bouldering, or mountaineering? Not many, I guess. And can a manga about climbing be interesting? Don't worry, I wasn't interested too. I was writing my novel, I've been doing research, and I found this manga, so I decided to give it a read. Oh man, I even took some panels from this manga as inspiration, not plagiarism. Anyway, when I searched up Sakamoto manga, I always get Sakamoto this. Don't give me that crap. Give me Shinichi Sakamoto. Because Shinichi Sakamoto is a fucking genius. Shinichi Sakamoto, Toko no Hito, The Climber, S tier. Speaking of ambience, speaking of character development, speaking of loneliness, The Climber depicted this idea so surreal, but also so real. Not just the ambience, it even has an innovative way of conveying stories that I had never seen before. In fact, people bring imagery to novels. Shinichi Sakamoto, he brings literary devices into manga. I had no interest in this manga whatsoever, and the beginning of the manga is a little disappointing. Sakamoto was originally making the art for The Climber while someone else writes the story. The beginning of The Climber was a classic sportive and hype slam dunk sort of story with the protagonist Mori having trouble communicating until he found interest in bouldering. He found a bouldering rivalry, a caring coach, etc. Everything was leading the story into another old school sports manga. Then suddenly, the writer quit it, and Sakamoto was forced to finish the manga by himself. No offense to this previous writer, but Sakamoto is a S-tier storyteller. Spoiler alert, the first thing Sakamoto did after taking over the pen is to kill someone important to Mori. That's when the story took a dark turn. After Mori finally found some friends in high school, an incident broke them apart, killed one, and graduation arrived. Mori's best friend / rivalry, Miyamoto, left to chase his dream. Mori was once again alone. Now, by literary device, I mean this. When Mori was afraid that sexual intercourse might tear his focus from climbing away, this was how Sakamoto depicted it. When you're in the middle of climbing an ice wall and powerful wind occurs, it howls. How do you perceive such wind? Through drawing. A woman screaming like the wind shrilling. Sakamoto draws out the metaphors and analogies. Unlike some manga would use poetic words, Sakamoto draws them out. Similar cases can be seen in only a few manga like Goodnight Pum Pum. Let's go back to the plot. After Mori graduated from high school, he joins a mountaineering association to train with the goal to summit the infamous K2 Eastern Face. K2 Eastern Face is the hardest mountain that no one in real life has ever peaked. And beating this unclimbable route is Mori and the manga's entire objective. Like I said, the story has gone from the sportive shonen manga to a dark seinen manga. Much like the contrast of Mori climbing in the nature to the urban area's reality that can crush you in different ways. Remember that Mori was gonna have sex with someone? It was actually with an innocent and adorable high school classmate of Mori who actively befriended him. She was a great human being that began pleasuring men to make a living after entering the society. She tried to earn some bucks for Mori, but Mori stopped her. Thus, she stole Mori's money. The partners in the mountaineering association, everyone was scums, but black and white also distinguishable in real life. Some climbing partners have their kind sides, some have reasons to be scums. At the end, they all show their fragility when they are about to die. Back to loneliness. A girl at Mori's workplace was obsessive with Mori. She wants Mori, and we get another example of analogies drawn. She barged into Mori's apartment and planned to live with him. Mori couldn't communicate, so he hid the remote control on her. He wrote so much he wasn't sure if he could say, that he indeed failed to say. Instead, he accidentally pushed her down the stairs. He couldn't share his opinions, so he couldn't reach an agreement with his climbing partners. After separating with his friends in high school, he dedicated everything to climbing. his ability to communicate decreased to almost none. It led that he was betrayed by his climbing partners, worsening his trust to others, and further worsening his ability to communicate. In reality, the saddest thing that can happen is probably someone close to you dying. But when we read so much of it, like in a lot of flashbacks in an action manga, it becomes repetitive and a cheap way to evoke our emotions. And sadness doesn't just come from people dying. Beautiful analogies, his detailed actions, everything he thinks about, all of these details showcase his loneliness. When these are conducted accidentally, we feel more emotions, more than just introducing someone important and killing them off. That's why The Climber and Goodnight Pum Pum, when nothing too overwhelmingly depressing plot occurs, we still call them the saddest mangas ever. The following scene, perhaps top 3 saddest scene in my opinion, was this. Multiple analogies show how nature comforts Mori, but by isolating himself in nature, he lacks experience in the busy urban world. This chain, this cycle of choosing nature and failing to communicate, dragged him to rock bottom, to the point that he didn't go to climbing, that he went to a great university, that he went drinking with friends, that he met the love of his life, that he found a wonderful career, that he was married, until those were just imaginations. He was just a monster in the urban society. This thing, to me, outdoes every character death in other manga because it penetrates so deep to our mental relatability. Until Hana appeared in his life. One of the few who didn't lie to him, who talked to him, and for reasons where he must communicate to her. Back to the writing style. The story timeline jumps back and forth. How Mori and Hana became a couple was a great example. When Mori was attacking a mountain in Pakistan, we were shown cutscenes of Mori taking Hana to see the shrine on a Japanese mountain. Mori had illusions of Hana being behind him and tied to him in Pakistan. We were shown Mori speaking to Hana near his workplace. Mori thought, "I love you, Hana." That's why he must return from Pakistan to Japan for Hana. We were shown that Mori and Hana had been living together. Anticipation, suspicion, like why we enjoy movie of Christopher Nolan. We love cutscenes with the little time jumps. What happened in the past? Will he succeed submitting this mountain? What does someone as shy as Mori say to Hana that made her blush? Mori is attacking his mountain. What is Hana doing? Because Mori loved Hana, he talked to her. Because he talked to her, he found some friends. He had a party with friends and drank alcohol. Because him and Hana gave birth to a child, Roka. Because Roka was born, he had one more reason to come back from the mountains alive, and especially K2 Eastern Phase. Just when I thought the real analogies couldn't get better, Sakamoto used around 30 chapters to write the final attack of the K2 Eastern Phase, the conflict of climbing up to 6,000 meters, Hana's sorrow when she lost contact with Mori, getting used to the altitude and preparing for the final attack to the summit. Compared to Berserk's sophisticated drawing, I am more keen toward a realistic drawing like Vagabond. Sakamoto is my top 3 favorite mangaka in terms of art. Bad weathers can make the drawing blurry, but that's the purpose. And because of the drawing necessary for the context, you can hear, smell, and feel the coldness. At one point, Mori recalled all his effort to get this far, to get onto the top of the mountain that he dreamed since he was a high schooler. He was willing to die on the mountain, but the shrilling wind corresponding to Roka's cry reminded him that he has a family to go back for. And so, I can make it. No, there'll be a storm in 10 hours. I've climbed countless of 8,000-meter mountains. I'm almost out of oxygen. All the connection to the human world and money I sacrificed for this mountain, K2 Eastern Phase, I need to climb it. Baroka, Hana, I want to see my family again. Abandons chance. Did he see his family again? No analysis or review can replace the actual original work, so I highly recommend. This is undoubtedly S-tier manga, The Climber by Shinichi Sakamoto. The beginning where Mori was in high school was around C or even D tier for me, but the rest of the story, it's just so good. It is above tier S. I will rank it there, and compromising the D tier high school arc, I think The Climber still deserves an S tier. That's how good it is. I went from having no interest in climbing to using this manga as inspiration for my own book to becoming an avid climber myself. I'm doing lots of bouldering and perhaps I will try mountaineering one day. And that's it for today's manga. I presented 2 manga about loneliness, Watamote, which surprisingly is an A tier that introduced the potential you can do with small characters, and of course, The Climber, a manga that draws out the literary devices, that discusses so deeply into the difference between urban world and nature. Do we need to be with people? Is being lonely really that unacceptable? Loneliness is the most visual and the hardest subject to write. If you will or are creating a manga or any fiction about loneliness, don't deceive yourself. Everyone somewhat knows how painful loneliness is. It is not being cute and having everyone care about you. What it actually is not being able to do anything right and being embarrassed multiple times like Tomoko. It is breaking down like Mori, regretting all his past decisions. This picture says everything. Loneliness is an appealing subject and perhaps my favorite, but there are only a few good ones. I wanted to put Goodnight Pom Pom or Chainsaw Man into this category, but I realized that they don't fit this at all. And instead, Watamote and The Climber, I think it is the best depiction of loneliness. So thank you for watching. Oh yeah, I just want to say I published my own original novel onto Wattpad, Web Novel, and Scribble Hub. So it's quite offensive, and it's because I wrote it in the worst time of my life. So I used the video to promote for this novel, but I deleted the video because it was too awkward. The name is If I'm Not Normal, Then You're Not Normal. Well, I highly recommend it. It's about music, it's quite fun, so go ahead and read it. I highly recommend both these mangas, and I'll see you next time with 2 more other mangas or 3, I don't know. I haven't think of the thing yet. So see you guys. Bye.
Sans toujours